Why? Because the focus of the crowd on who they want to win makes an energetic connection with the person, and they start to feed more energy from the crowd. But it goes the other way too. When massive crowds focus on the symbols of this archontic force, whether it's personification or literal symbols, they're making the energetic connection, and their energy can be trawled because there is a frequency connection. And when you have these massive, massive rituals with unbelievable numbers of people, they're trawling energy. Go to a football match with a massively powerful atmosphere, and the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Why? Because of the electromagnetic field generated by the crowd. That electromagnetic field en masse is what these people trawl. When you go to like Mecca and they're focusing on this, and we'll come to what that is shortly, what that represents is creating a frequency connection through what that represents to what that actually is. When they focus on Mecca, they're focusing on that Kaaba cube, and there are consequences energetically for that. When you have a satanic stage show and the crowd, the kids are focused on it, what it's doing is locking them into that frequency, entrainment. So there's so many ways that we are fed off in that way. And symbols is a massive way. Of course, the eye is a universal symbol of this network. There you see the eye on the necklace of the mysteries. It goes way, way back. In banking and politics, in church, in state, you see it. This is thousands of years old, found in Ecuador. And there is the eye and the 13 levels of the pyramid. And under ultraviolet light, that even shines the illuminated eye. And that's what you find on the dollar bill. It's one of the major symbols of this archontic network. And there's 13 levels, exactly as in Ecuador thousands of years ago. There it is in Freemasonry, because you'll find it in Satanism, you'll find it in Freemasonry, you'll find it in banking, you'll find it in politics, because they all ultimately are worshiping the same gods. That's MI5. There it is again, the security agencies. MI6, again, the pyramidal shape. This is a church. I think it's in Poland. And here we go, old twerper's back. There you go, have a twerp. Stage show, there it is, classic. And these are locking people in. There's Madonna. What's the chances of this? Katy Perry, Angelina Jolie, Lady Gaga, CBS, Jay-Z. Unbelievable. What's the chances of Chancellor Merkel doing that every time? That's bloody ludicrous. It's not even a natural thing to do. And then you look, I mean, this is unbelievable, this. Animated bloody cartoons and stuff. This pyramid and all-seeing eyes freaking everywhere. I'm not going to go through them all because of time, but every one of the shots that you're going to see has got that in it. Look at them, all over the bloody place. And this is feeding something into the subconscious of those who watch, overwhelmingly kids. The programming starts subconsciously from the earliest age. Like the Olympics in 2012, the one-eyed man. The eye. Here you had the Monsters, Inc. The central character had a single eye, and the monsters were feeding off the energy of children. It was their sustenance. And then you have this is unbelievable again. The number of personalities who get photographed covering one freaking eye up in some form. I mean, look at it. And there's hundreds more. And most of them won't know. Another great symbol of this archontic network in all its forms is the flame or the lighted torch. And what the Gnostic said was that the archons are made from luminous fire, the jinn were made from smokeless fire, according to the Islamic belief, and the archon phoenix. That all comes from this archontic symbolism, the phoenix rising from the ashes in fire. And according to Freemasonic historians, the phoenix morphed in terms of symbolism into the more acceptable eagle, and that's why you have eagles on so many flags and state logos. So all this is putting information into the subconscious mind to filter through to the conscious mind. So, in plain sight, Saturn. Saturn is, I would say, after my research over the years, is fundamental to understanding how this, quote, bad copy became our fake reality and continues to be so. First of all, Saturn was widely worshipped in the ancient world. Question, why would it be when we can hardly frickin' see it, never mind what the ancients could do? Well, there's a story about why. This, as we see it today, wasn't always like it was, and in geologically very recent times, it wasn't like this. People like Immanuel Velikovsky and others have studied over the years and written books, and they've been followed up by people like the Electric Universe researchers like David Tolbert and Thornhill in books more recently, as they have looked at the evidence that there was a catastrophic upheaval in the solar system in the relatively recent past, not yesterday afternoon, but the relatively recent past, which could well sync with when this bad copy fake reality was locked in. All over the world you have global destruction myths and catastrophe myths manifesting under names like Atlantis and Lemuria and Mu, but they are unbelievable in their common themes of how they describe what happens. And after this movement of planets, which was a massive disruption of the electromagnetic order, as I mentioned earlier, which meant the stability had gone, they ended up where we see them today. Now, this is a fantastic book. I almost can't get it now, and if you can, it costs a fortune. But it represents a magnificent piece of research by this man, David Tolbert, one of the people involved in the Electric Universe information. It's called the Saturn myth. And what he did was study the worship of Saturn all over the world, studied its symbolism, studied what they said about it, studied why they said they worshiped Saturn. And what came out was this, that Saturn, once upon a time, was anywhere but where it is now, and at the time it had no rings. Come to that as we go along. Actually, it was the dominant planet, I would say star, sun, in the Earth sky. And the way they describe it, it went around in an orbit in sync with Mars and Venus as it moved around. And that was the dominant light, the dominant sun, if you like, from Earth in the Golden Age. And I say that Saturn is a dwarf star, which is not a great, amazing thing because there's so many dwarf stars out there, they say now, it's unbelievable. And what they said in the early astronomical traditions is that Saturn was the primeval sun. That's how they described it. And Plato referred to Saturn as Helios, the sun god. Not our sun that we see today, the Saturn sun referred to as Helios. Now we take Helios to mean our sun because it's the sun god. I say that's a mistake. Actually, they were talking about Saturn. And Diodorus of Sicily, an ancient historian, reported that the Chaldeans in the same area, Sumer, Babylon, now Iraq, called Saturn by the name Helios and said that this was because Saturn was, quote, the most conspicuous of the planets, which fits exactly with Tolbert's research across and I tell you, it's across the global cultures. The creator of modern Christianity worshipped Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. Sol, it turns out, was another name that was used for Saturn and not the sun we think we see today. So when you start to let it kind of filter through, that at least most of the ancient sun gods were referring to the Saturn sun, not the sun we see today. Why? Because the focus of the crowd on who they want to win makes an energetic connection with the person, and they start to feed more energy from the crowd. But it goes the other way too. When massive crowds focus on groups of people, they're trawling energy. Go to a football match with a massively powerful atmosphere, and the hairs of the back of your neck stand up. Why? Because of the electromagnetic field generated by the crowd. The symbols of this archontic force, whether it's personification or literal symbols, they're making the energetic connection, and their energy can be trawled because there is a frequency connection. And when you have these massive, massive rituals with unbelievable numbers, that electromagnetic field en masse is what these people trawl. When you go to like Mecca and they're focusing on this, and we'll come to what that is shortly, what that represents is creating a frequency connection through what that represents to what that actually is. When they focus on Mecca, they're focusing on that Kaaba cube, and there are consequences energetically for that. When you have a satanic stage show and the crowd, the kids are focused on it,